Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tam Talks Tanks. Now, I'd like the focus of today's video to be on this guy. Right? No, that way. Yep, that one. This is a pre-filter sponge. Let me just show you a shot of it here. Oh, that's a good picture. This is a pre-filter sponge and you can see it's covered in debris and you can actually see it's kind of gone into an hour shape angle. That's because it's so full of gunk that the filter's trying to suck in water from it, and it's not able to do so very efficiently because of all the gunk in it. But all that gunk would have gone into the filter, so it's saving me a job. Now, the shrimp really enjoy grazing on that pre-filter sponge, which is fantastic. This pre-filter sponge saves this filter down here from getting all clogged up with gunk from like the likes of fish poo or duckweed roots that have become detached. It ends up saving you a lot of time in maintaining. It ends up saving you a lot of time in maintaining your aquarium filter, and you're gonna get to see this. I think it's shocking how dangerous these filters are for small fish like my Rasboras, for the shrimp, because they are small and they just get sucked up. This is why I got a pre-filter sponge in the first place. It has the advantage of acting as another medium for beneficial bacteria to thrive. But ultimately, I just wanted to stop my livestock from getting sucked into the filter and then having the impeller kind of, not nice. So I'll show you what I mean, and we're gonna have a go at cleaning this. Right, I don't know if the sound picks up, if you can hear it. If I bring you closer, maybe down, sorry about my face. Down here, can you hear the humming of the filter? That is because the pre-filter sponge there, as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, is so full of gunk that it's gone into a sort of hourglass shape. If you can see it curving there, that's quite a good view of it curving. Just because it is simply so full of gunk, the filter is sucking in the same amount of water, the same volume of water, but the pores and the sponge are blocked. So it's just kind of compressing in on itself, and it's becoming tighter and tighter and tighter, and it's sort of a positive feedback loop where the more full the sponge becomes, the tighter it'll get sucked in. The tighter it'll get sucked in and squeezed together, the less water can pass through it. The less water that can pass through it, the less efficiently this works, and the more your aquarium's going to suffer for it, either by ammonia poisoning or just general detritus caught up in the water. So let's fix it. So what you'll need to clean your pre-filter sponge: pump to empty out some aquarium water. You don't want to use tap water. Those beneficial bacteria are in there and they're so useful. Bucket. We've got a plastic container, and you'll see why I'm going to use this. And then we need to go underneath the aquarium. Turn off the turn off the heater and the filter. Make sure you turn off your heater. Otherwise, best case scenario, your heater breaks. Worst case scenario, your heater breaks, it fries the fish. Yes, it boils them alive if the heater breaks and there ends up being an electrical short circuit. Not good. So turn off your heater. That's a waggly finger. The next thing you're going to need: clean hands, clean arms, because you're going to have to reach into that aquarium Now when I say clean, I mean as long as you're not wearing things like moisturizers on your hands and arms, then you can just rinse your hands and arms with water. I wouldn't recommend using soap if you can avoid it, because if you get soap into your aquarium, then that's going to be toxic to the life in there. You don't really want to have soap in there. If you've got to use soap, that's fine. Just make sure that you rinse it off. All we need is really a couple of bucketfuls. Obviously, if you've only got one bucket like me, do it one bucket at a time. And when we take off the pre-filter sponge, I'm going to try and get a good view in at the filter inlet and show you why I think it's so dangerous for small fish. I don't know why they're sold like this, but I hate it. And this is the part when you get covered in duckweed. So what you're going to do is lower your container into the water with one hand, and with the other hand, make sure your filter's off. Simply pick up the pre-filter sponge and quickly get it into that container. And there you can see this filter is totally covered in gunk and duckweed roots and everything. Look at that. Ugh. Disgusting! Be like the sponge lady. I squeezed and squeezed and squeezed. No flab on this arm. You want to just squeeze, 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 and see how dirty that is getting already. Actually, it looks like a pond. And you're going to see what we're going to do with that in a moment. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And the reason why we're doing it in aquarium water, as I mentioned before, is you've got so much surface area here for your beneficial bacteria that you don't want to kill them. And it's really useful if you're setting up a new tank. Use this, squeeze this into a bucket of water, and then put this water into the new aquarium, and that's it. It's seeded, and it'll cycle so much faster. Right, that is round 1. You're going to see how much comes out in round 2. Pop that back into the container, save it from getting all dirty. Become the duckweed monster. Oh my god, there is duckweed everywhere. Never mind. Carry your bucket out and simply make a mess. Dump it into your garden. Water your plants. We're going to do that one more time, and I'll show you how much gunk comes out in the second run through. Alright, now we're going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. It's a lot like green tea. Right, now we've got this out of the way, let me show you exactly why I hate these things as they are. Oh, hello Panda. You can see all of the really wide gaps. Because it's so dirty, it's a little bit difficult to see what I'm talking about, so let me just grab it out. Normally I wouldn't do this. So you're just going to reach in with your hand, give it a gentle twist and a gentle tug. There we go. And all you're left with there is a pipe. Let's take this out. Now, have it over the bucket so you can see well. You can see just how much space there is in these slats. And you can easily see how, with a strong flow, tiny little baby fish or shrimp or whatever small critters you're keeping, you can see how easily they can get sucked up into this and then have the roller coaster ride of the filter and the impeller, and no good. So that's why I always use a pre-filter sponge. Now this has a gaping hole in it, so what I did was, you can see it's not perfectly smooth at the bottom. I cut it with a pair of scissors, just some kitchen scissors, whatever. You just need to cut it. You can cut it with a knife, whatever makes you happy. You want to cut just maybe 5 centimetres, half an inch off. So then that way you can take this, scrunch it up and plug it. It's not perfect, but by the time the filter's sucking in all that water, it's going to tighten up anyway, and nothing should get through that. Could just put this back on, but I'm going to show you how I do it by pretending that I haven't taken this off in the first place. So hang on. So to put it back on, you're just going to plug that hole and just gently twist, kind of put be a little bit firm about pushing down, not too much force. You don't want to break the glass underneath, but you want to make sure that it's nice and firmly on there. Please excuse my blurry camera, it does that when I zoom in. So now, just gonna pop this over. Now it's gonna be a little bit tight, but you can push it out from the inside, and it might break a couple of fibres. That's totally fine. You've got many more fibres in there. I've had this sponge for, well, almost as long as I've had the tank. Then take this little bit, and simply plug it. Easy peasy, that's much better. And now I'm going to turn on the heater again, and I'm also going to turn on the filter. Don't be alarmed by the filter kicking out all the gunk, because I don't typically clean inside of it. I think I've only done it once, but look at the tank, it's fine. Doesn't need it all the time. It's allowed to have gunk in it. It's what the beneficial bacteria eat. So we're going to, I'm going to turn on the heater, but as you can probably see, the heater is still totally submerged. I've not done that much of a water change. There we go. I've not done that much of a water change, so the water level isn't far enough down to be of concern with the heater. But if your heater has emerged out of the water, do not turn it on before you fill it up, please. We already talked about worst case scenario. I don't need to do it again. So I'm gonna turn on the heater, and then I'm going to turn on the filter, and it's gonna pick up a bunch of crud. As you can see, it's throwing out a load of crud. It is what it is. It's all stuck in the pipe, and I can't really be bothered to clean it all right now. So it's going to make the water really cloudy, but I'll show you what it looks like in a few hours' time. It's going to be crystal clear, and the sponge, the pre-filter sponge, is going to catch it all. And then I'll clean the pre-filter sponge again, and then it'll be fine. It clears up within a couple of hours, maybe, well, between 2 and 5 hours realistically. So I'm not that worried about it. It's fine. It'll clear up, and the fish will be right as rain. I forgot to mention, when I'm topping up the water, I like to use Prime. It's just a water conditioner. It's a really good one. I like it. Obviously not a sponsor because I'm not a big channel at this point. But I've worked out the maths ages and ages ago. I think this is a 9 litre bucket. Don't know what that is in gallons. I'll put it up on the screen about there. One of these 9 litre buckets, it only takes about 2 or 3 drops of Prime, which is really nice. So I've had this since I started up this tank, which has been pretty nice. Before I forget to mention it, big thing, this will stain your clothes. It'll kind of bleach them, so don't wear clothes that you're very attached to, or if you are wearing clothes that you're quite attached to like me, just be careful. Please excuse the duckweed mess. I'm sure anyone who has duckweed in their tank knows it just gets everywhere. But your aquarium will generally come with a fill line. This is where it's safe to fill up to. Ah, that's better.